All right, so welcome to our day 2 AWS class, and today we will be starting our website hosting. So this course will walk you through building a website on AWS, and building one on AWS includes many benefits such as reliability, load balancing, maintainability, and most importantly, security. So there are multiple resources used to build a website on AWS. You'll see that some of these we actually used yesterday. So the first one is Amazon S3, and this is the storage facility that Amazon provides. This is the same thing we used yesterday to store an image of our choice. So Amazon S3, as I mentioned earlier, like yesterday, is a storage utility provided by AWS. It allows for data storage on a server, and this data can be accessed from anywhere in the world as long as there's an internet connection. We will be storing website files on here, so like HTML files, CSS, JavaScript. So website files on here, and then this will be linked to our EC2 instance, which we will be creating. Next, we have our VPC, public and private subnets. So a VPC is like a virtual private cloud. So it can be thought of as like a portion of a server that is set out for you to use. So it provides on-demand cloud computing resources, and it's like a small area within a public cloud. So like an isolated section of a public cloud network. And a subnet is basically an array of IP addresses in your VPC. Having a public subnet connects your VPC to the internet from an internet gateway, and a private subnet prevents that. So there are different uses where you'd want to use like a public subnet and a private subnet. Usually websites will have a public subnet so that you can have users actually be able to go on your website, unless you only want it for you. We'll be using a public subnet. Next is security groups. So we didn't get into this yesterday, but a security group is another form of security in AWS. And it's basically a set of terms that you can lay out, and they act as a firewall which regulate incoming and outgoing traffic on your EC2 instance. So traffic, what I mean by that is basically people accessing your website or accessing anything that's running on your server. So having a security group manages that traffic. So for example, if there are malicious people trying to hack whatever is on your server, a security group will be able to prevent that. So that's basically what a security group is. EC2, we used this yesterday. So an instance is simply an online server created from an AMI on which you can configure apps, operating systems, etc. We'll be configuring a website hoster on this. An IAM role. So if you pay attention to last class, I actually mentioned this. So basically, it's a set of permissioning in an IAM role. It's basically where you can connect multiple different applications in AWS. So for example, our EC2 server won't have access to our files that we store in S3. In order for our website to be running, we need our server to be able to access the website files so that it can run. So in IAM role, we can grant permission to the server to be able to access these files. So it basically lays out what resources can do and what they can't do. An application load balancer. So this is not something that we are personally going to be creating or using. It's just something integrated within AWS's server. So an application load balancer is basically a system distributing traffic on your instance, and it distributes traffic over multiple servers. Like if you have a high amount of traffic, obviously. So this is automatically integrated. It probably won't be used for us, but like if you were a huge company and you had millions of users visiting your website every day, in order to manage that traffic and load, your users would be distributed over multiple servers so that one site doesn't become too overloaded. And this increases not only reliability, but capacity and lowers the server response time. All right. So now we'll get into the steps of actually hosting it. Now you can open AWS and sign into your main page. So I'm in my console home. When everyone's in their console home, they can just let me know. You could like use the thumbs up button. All right, Roman Karthik already. Devansh said you guys are good. All right. So now that we're in our console home, we're basically just open EC2 for now. Sorry, S3, not EC2. Open S3 for now. And just keep this tab open for now. And this is where we're going to store our website files. So we're not actually going to be creating a website. We'll be downloading pre-existing files and then hosting that on the cloud. So we're actually going to be visiting a website called codepen.io. It's basically a free website where you have a bunch of different website files available to you and that you can access. We're actually going to be using one. It has like a interesting scroll animation. So what you guys are going to do is visit this website. It's called codepen.io. I can just put it in the chat. So this has a bunch of website files, and the one we're going to be using is like a scroll one. But before we do that, I need you guys to create accounts on this website. If you're not sure, I can just go to the slides for now. So it should be somewhere like over here in the top right. I'm already logged in, but for you guys, you'd have something with creating an account. So you could use like, just put in your credentials, and then once you have your account created, you can just let me know. Okay, Om is good. Sid, Devansh, you guys are good. All right. And so I'm just waiting on Karthik.
I'm done.
All right, perfect. So now you should see like a huge search bar on the top of the website. Search for scroll. And once you've searched for that, you're going to have a bunch of different parallax effects here. We're going to be using this one. It should say parallax scroll animation. So it should look like this. You can click on that. And then you're going to see a bunch of different website files here. We have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for the different components of the website. You can also see here how the website works by scrolling down. The animation progresses. So this is what we're going to be hosting on our web server. So what we're going to have to do is download these files. So what you're going to see in the bottom right of your screen is this button embed. Sorry, export, not embed. Click export and then click export zip. That will download these files onto your computer. Should say parallax scroll animation. It will be a zip file. You can see here, I have the zipped file over here. And what you're going to need to do is extract this file. So basically unzip it. In case you guys don't know how to do that, so first you're going to open your file explorer to where the file is. In my case, it's in my downloads folder. And you're going to right click this. And then you're going to click extract all. Then click extract. Then you're going to have another folder that is unzipped will be created. So just let me know when you have your folder unzipped, and then I'll move on. So Om is good, Karthik's good, Sid looks good, Devant, you're good. All right. So now that we have our files downloaded, we can close out the website. And now we're going to be storing these files in an S3 bucket. So what you guys are going to do, just like we did yesterday, is create a bucket. Once you're on your S3 page over here, click this orange button, create bucket. And then your bucket name, make it something relevant to what we're doing. I'll just call it WorthyWorks bucket or website bucket. Can't be any uppercase letters, so just make sure you don't have that. So now we have our bucket name. The region should be set to US East Virginia as it is by default. Object ownership, you can enable ACLs like we did yesterday. You can uncheck the block all public access because we're going to be accessing this website from our public IPv4 address. And that's just what our computer has. Doing it with our private IPv4 just involves a lot more steps. So we'll be using public IPv4. So you can uncheck the block all public access like we did yesterday, acknowledge the changes, bucket versioning, and everything else can be left default. Yeah. So just make sure you have block all public access unchecked and you have ACLs enabled. Once you have that, you can click create bucket. Unexpected error. Oh, bucket name isn't available. All right. So once you have an available name and your bucket has been created with the correct permissions, your bucket will appear here. It will say WorthyWorks website bucket 1. Your region will be US East Virginia. For access, it should say objects can be public. It isn't working for me. All right. You could share your screen and then I could help you out. Karthik looks good. What does it? It just brings you back up. Wait, what about your name? Is the name taken? Yeah, that's probably it. All right, so there we go. So now we have a bucket created. And now we're going to be storing our files in here. So just like we did yesterday, we're going to have to upload files. So click on our bucket and click on upload. And what you guys are going to do is click add files. Do not click add folder. I'll explain it to you why. So if we click add folder, when we go into command prompt, which is what we're going to do the next day of this course, when we go through there and we download all the files, for some reason, it's not able to locate them when they're within a folder. So just because of some permissioning, so we're just going to add files, don't add the folder. So we'll add the files individually. So you can click add files over here and then go into your unzipped folder. Go in here. And the first two things we're going to upload are the license and README documents. So you can highlight both of those and then click open. You'll see here license.txt and readme.md. These files have been added to our bucket. Just let me know when you have that done. Okay, Karthik and Om are good. Sid is good. And Devansh looks good. All right, perfect. So now we're going to repeat the same steps, but this time you're going to enter the source folder over here, highlight everything here, and open. This will add 3 more files over here. We're going to have an HTML file, a JavaScript file, and a cascading style sheet document. So now you should have 5 files here. And after that, we're going to do the same thing, but go into the dist folder over here. You'll see the same things, but just highlight them all and open them. Nothing appears here. You'll still have the same 5 files, but parts aren't like associated with the source folder. So that's why you should just add them. So either way, you should be left with 5 files here once you've added the README, license, and these 3 files from both folders. Once you have both of those, you can give me a thumbs up. Okay. Om is good, okay. Just waiting on Karthik. All right, perfect. So you should have these 5 files, and now we can click upload. Once we have these uploaded, you'll see the screen bar appear, upload succeeded, and then you'll see 5 files within your bucket. So for now, we have our files uploaded. Let me just make sure. Yep. So we have all of our files needed for our website. So now we're going to move on to the permissioning for the IAM role. So as I mentioned earlier, this is a set of permissions that you create in order for your server to be able to access your website files. So we're going to be giving our server permission to access all of these files using an IAM role. So search for IAM. It should say management access to AWS resources, IAM. So you can click that. It should be the first pop-up. And so you'll be brought to something like this page. You won't have any of these like warnings. That's just because I've used AWS before. But what you're going to do is click on roles over here.
I have the MFA error.
That's okay. It's not really that important. It's not of our concern. But you can click roles over here. We're going to be creating an IAM role. So once you click roles, you will be brought to a page like this. As you can see, there should be like 2 default roles that are created. It doesn't really matter if you see them or not. But we're going to be creating one that gives our server full access to our S3 bucket. So you're going to click create role over here in the top right. Select the type of service. We're going to have an AWS service and common use cases EC2. Once you have both of those selected, you can click next. And then you'll be brought to a page of permissions and policies. Search for S3. Oh, make sure there are no spaces. You can leave it like this. Just search for S3 full. And then see this pop-up appear. It should say Amazon S3 full access. And you can see here, provides full access to all buckets via the AWS management console. So click on this permission and then click next. Give your role a name. I'll just call it S3 full access. For your description, you can leave that default. Yeah, everything else can be left default. Just make sure to create a name and then click create role. So it will say role S3 full access successfully created. You can see over here, I have this role created. So we've laid out the permissioning for the IAM role. We'll be using this to link our S3 and our EC2. Now we're going to move on to creating a security group. So a security group is a little bit more complicated. A security group, basically, as I mentioned earlier, it's a firewall for your website. So if you guys don't know, like things like HTTP and HTTPS are a form of security before each website's URL. So we have to actually lay that out in AWS. So basically what we're going to do is create a security group, and this is within EC2. So you can search for EC2. Once you're in EC2, you'll see all these different icons just like yesterday. We are concerned with security groups. So it should be under the network and security icon on the left, or you can just find it right here under resources and click security groups. And you might have some created by default. If you don't, it's completely fine. So here's where we're going to create our security group. So you're going to click create security group in the orange over here. And you can give your security group a name. I'll just give it WordWorks security group. So that is my security group name. For the description, you can just type SSH access. I'll explain what SSH means in a second. So you could leave that here. Everything else should be fine. And now we're going to be adding inbound rules. So these control the inbound traffic onto your website. So the first inbound rule we're going to create. So we just click add rule over here. You can click this 3 times because we're going to be creating 3 rules. The first one is going to be HTTP. So as I mentioned, this is a form of security. So HTTP, we'll have that as our type. The protocol and port range will be selected by default. And then over here for the source, you can click on the search bar and then just click the first one. It should just have all zeros. And then the source should just change to anywhere. So all zeros means basically you can access this from anywhere. All right. And let me check the chat. Oh, yeah. So just a reminder that the Zoom meeting has a 40-minute limit. So just make sure to rejoin if it does end with the same link.
Well, we gotta click anywhere IPv6.
No, IPv4.
Okay.
So you can click anywhere IPv4. This should be set then, and you don't need a description. Next, we're going to have HTTPS. It's kind of the same thing as HTTP, just a different form of security. So For the source, we're going to do the same thing as we did above, anywhere, and we're going to have a 0. So we're going to have access from anywhere. And the last group we're going to create is SSH. I'm going to click 0 over here, the same thing as anywhere. For the outbound traffic, you can just leave that as all traffic. This can be left default. And then you should be good. So once everybody has these 3 rules, they can give me a thumbs up. Okay, has them. Say Karthik. Okay. All right, so we should be good. Oh, I think I stopped screen sharing. All right. So then once you're here, you can click Create Security Group. So now that our security group is created, you can see all the details here. We have our name, ID, and our description. And we have our 3 inbound rules here. You can also check the outbound rules, which is over here. So that's all traffic for IPv4. And yeah, so that's our security group. So to going back to SSH, SSH is known as a secure shell, and it basically enables access. It's like a protocol access between 2 different services. So we're actually going to be using SSH to connect our machine to the server. It's similar to did yesterday with the remote desktop. Or SSH, it's just like it just works differently, but it does like a similar thing. So that should be creating a security group. It looks like we have time left, so I can just move on with the rest of the course. So I'll just go to the day 3 material. And we can go from there. So now we'll create a key pair. So as it's the same thing as yesterday, a key pair just allows us to connect from our desktop device. I think I closed AWS by accident. Yeah, you should be here right now. And then like we did before, we're going to be creating a key pair for our machine. So under network and security, you're also going to find key pair. So you can click key pair. And then you can click create key pair. For the name, I'll just call it WordUX key pair. The type can be left as RSA. That should be selected by default. And then make sure the private key file format is .ppk. So this is for use with PuTTY. And PuTTY is basically an SSH client. It connects us to our website that we're hosting. We're actually going to be using PuTTY to do that. So make sure .ppk is selected and RSA is selected for our key pair. And then you click create key pair. So now this will be downloaded onto your computer. All right, so you can check over here in my files. I have WordUX key pair. All right. Next we have, we can close this. Next, we're going to be creating our instance. So we've stored our files, we've created a key pair and a security group. Now we're going to be setting up our instance. So we're already in EC2, so we can go to EC2 dashboard. And then we can click instances on the left over here. And then we can click launch instance. Once everyone is at this page, just give me a thumbs up. All right, launch it. Oh, okay, perfect. We can name this. You can name it whatever you'd like, but I'll just call it WorthyWorks Web Server. And we're going to be using Amazon Linux for this because Linux just gives us a wide range of things that we can do. It's better for the task that we're doing, which is website hosting. So we're going to be using Amazon Linux. This should be selected by default. Make sure the machine is free tier eligible. The instance type is a T2 micro. And then the key pair login. So this is where we're going to be selecting the key pair that we just created. So you can select it. And then you can see here in the dropdown, I have WorthyWorks key pair. So you can select this. This is what we use to securely connect. So once you've selected that, we can move on to network settings. This is where our security group comes in. So you can select existing security group, click this, and then select a security group from the dropdown. There should only be the one that you created. In my case, it's WorthyWorks security group and other default stuff, but I'm just going to click this. Just click the one that you created. So as I mentioned earlier, it's like a firewall controlling traffic. Storage can be like normal. For advanced details, we're going to be selecting our IAM instance profile. So for IAM, just click S3 full access or whatever you named your IAM role. Other than that, we should be good. Let me just check the slides. Yeah, so other than IAM, we should be good. And then we can launch our instance. You can see our instance has been launched over here. It doesn't show any instances right now, but over here, you can see the instance state is currently pending. So you can wait for this instance to start. I just need to use the bathroom. I'll be right back. All right, sorry for the delay. So I'm back. Now we can move on. So you can see our instance state is running. So our Linux server is currently running, but we don't have a way to connect to this client. So what we're going to be using is PuTTY, and PuTTY is basically an SSH client. All right, so you can click over here. You can just open a new tab and click PuTTY download. Type PuTTY download, and you'll be brought to this link, putty.org. It's a free SSH and Telnet client. You'll be brought to a website like this. And then you can click download PuTTY at the top. Then you'll be brought to this page. You'll have package files and alternative binary files. So you can see over here that you have individual files for what you'd want to do. This basically installs everything. We will only be using the SSH client. So what you're going to download is the 64-bit times 86 PODI.executive. I'm pretty sure most of you guys have a 64-bit operating system. If you don't, you can check that in your settings. You can just type processor info, and you'll see over here 64-bit operating system. So just make sure it's 64-bit, and then you can continue and download the 64-bit times 86 PODI.exe. This will download this onto your computer. Once everyone has it downloaded, just let me know. Devansh, Omar, good. Sid, you're good? No, not yet. Okay, I'll give you some more time.
Do we have to start? Do we have to run it?
No, don't run it yet. I'll let you know when to. I can't hear you, Sid. You could like. I think he has lagged out. You could type it in the chat if. Yeah, I think I can hear your typing, but
Oh, hello.
which one to download? Oh, it's just the 64-bit times 86. So it should be this one. Okay. Yeah. So now that you have that downloaded,